Good morning. How are we? What a great conference. I was here all day yesterday. Lovely people, great speakers. We talked a lot about innovation. We talked a lot about how to start a business. We talked a lot about funding. What I'm going to focus on in this short presentation, it is short. Has anyone here heard me speak before? Hands up. Oh, excellent. Got one. I keep thinking I'm getting more famous, but maybe I've just got to work at it that little bit harder. We're going to go through 5 practical lessons for better business. As you know, hopefully we're not going to have the dreaded clicker. I'm Dale Howarth, and there's a number of things that I do with businesses. I'm a business mentor and a consultant, so I work with businesses from new start businesses, entrepreneurial spirits, where often they're talking to me because they want to get it right at the start. If you're starting a new business, you have a big advantage over other businesses in that you can get it right from the start. And they want to put the foundations in place that will make them successful. I then work with a lot of SMEs, small to medium-sized companies, and some major corporates like American Express Private Bank, like Fiat and Alfa Romeo, particularly around product launches. And those large businesses have realized over time that they haven't been getting it right, and they have to go back and rebuild some of the foundations. We had a great speaker here yesterday that opened the conference, Drayton Bird. And Drayton came out with some really, really good content for those of you that were there at that presentation. I'm sure many of you were. And one of the things he said is how simple this is, but it's not simplistic. It's simple, yet it's hard. But if we do the simple things right in the right way, we build the right foundations to build very, very successful businesses. So my work with small businesses, with entrepreneurial spirits, with innovators, right through to large corporates, focuses on getting those fundamentals right. And I call them practical lessons. I'm also a speaker. I speak at about 30 or 40 conferences a year. In the UK, Europe, North America, and I also lecture at a number of universities. So in the UK, Christ College in Canterbury, Manchester Business School, and over in the States, UCLA, UNLV. So a lot of this is going into their MBA programs and ensuring they get a real world perspective on how to develop successful businesses. First thing, these are the lessons that we're going to cover. I would love to cover more, but time won't permit. But what I have got is a gift for many of you. My Practical Lessons for Better Business booklet. I've got 100 copies of this, which I'll be giving away. All you need to do following this presentation at some point during the day is go to the organizer's stand in the main hall, and you can get your copy. It's completely free. There are no catches. It will cover some of the lessons that we'll cover in this short presentation, and it covers many, many more. And it's a very useful tool. So please get yourself a copy after this presentation. Hands up, who wants to be more successful? Everybody wants to be more successful. It's why we're here. So what I'll say to all of you is you're in the right place. You've come to the right event, and hopefully you've got the right speaker in front of you. We all want to be more successful. But success means different things to different people. So it's important when we look at success to understand what it is as it means to us. Is it purely financial? Do we just want to make lots of money? Is it that we want success so that other people will see us in a different light? They'll see us as an achiever, someone they want to be more closely associated with. Success means different things to different people. The first thing that I want to get across before we really touch on the key lessons is that for most businesses, what you need to be more successful is already there. It's already available to you today. And a lot of the work I do with businesses is unlocking that potential that already exists within a business to do far more with the resources that you already have. The contacts you already have, the products you have, the solutions you have, the services that you have. Lots of businesses just continually strive to develop new products, new services, without paying attention to the diamonds they've already created. There are diamonds within your organizations today. You just have to identify them and you have to realize their potential. And there's a true story that backs this up, and it's a story that goes back to a great man called Rosser Reeves. Rosser Reeves was a great business and marketing guru of his time. He learnt his trade back in the Great Depression. And none of this stuff is new. You know, Drayton yesterday touched very much on the point that none of this is new. A lot of the reference material he referred to goes back to the 20s, the 30s, 40s, the 50s. This stuff's up to 80 years old, but it still holds true today. And the story that came out, which reflects Acres of Diamonds, which is what I refer to this as, is of a farmer in the Midwest in America during the Depression. He wanted to be wealthy, and he felt that in order to be wealthy, he'd need to sell his farm, move to Africa, and buy a diamond mine. So that's what he set out to do. And he moved to Africa and he bought a diamond mine. Unfortunately, he died some years later, still poor, never found diamonds of any value. In the meantime, the people that bought his farm in the Midwest found one of the largest oil reserves in the area and became phenomenally rich. And the moral of the story is, what he wanted was already there. It was beneath his feet. He thought it was diamonds. The reality was he should have been thinking about oil. And it's the same for a lot of businesses. It'll be the same for a lot of your businesses. So the means to be more successful is already there within what you already have. It's not just going out and developing new things all the time. Success as a formula. That's the formula. Have you got that? Are you all writing that down? Actually, it's simpler than that. It's a lot simpler than that. The first thing we need to do is understand where we want to go to and why. It's taking time to sit down and understand what you want from your business, because it's different for everybody. One of the questions I'll ask when I'm working with a client, particularly a new business, is to say, what's your exit strategy? What is it you want to be doing in a few years' time? Do you just want to build up value in the business and sell it? Or do you want a legacy in that business, something that you can continue, maybe in the future do a management buyout, maybe stay on as a chairman, hand it over to members of your family so that it continues for generations? What is it you want to do? And understanding those aims initially sets the whole course going forward. Because if all you want to do is build a business up and in the shortest space of time just to sell it to make money, you would do it in a very different way than if you're going out to build something that's got longevity. So the first thing is to understand what it is you want to achieve and why. The next thing is to know where you are at the moment. And this may sound simple, but you'd be surprised how few people take time to understand this. When I leave Varna tomorrow to go to the airport, if the hotel phones to get a taxi for me, the taxi company will ask, "Where are you?" If I can't tell them where I am, they'll have great difficulty picking me up and getting me to Varna Airport. So whilst I know my aim, if I don't know where I am at the moment, I'm not going to be successful in getting to the airport. So we have to know where we are, not only where we want to get to. And then we need to understand what stands in our way, because we all have barriers, we all have things to overcome. If there are no barriers, we would all go and do it tomorrow, because there is nothing preventing us from achieving our goals. So they have to be barriers. And with barriers comes the potential for failure. We're all risk averse. Manuela mentioned it in her presentation previously about being prepared to fail. Failure is a good thing in business. It's not a bad thing in business. Failure helps you learn. It helps you to understand what doesn't work so that you can move ahead with things that will work. Thomas Edison, when he was inventing the electric light bulb, eventually did over 1,200 experiments before he found the carbon-impregnated filament in a vacuum vessel that would work, something we know as the electric light bulb. And after several hundred experiments, the media were all over him. They were calling it Edison's folly, because they knew that you had to light the world up with kerosene lamps and gas lamps and oil lamps. And they interviewed him and said, why do you carry on? Because you just keep failing. You've done 700 experiments, none of them have worked, you're just failing. And he said, no, you're looking at it the wrong way. I've just found 700 ways that won't work, and therefore I'm 700 ways nearer what will work. If he'd have stopped at that point in time, we wouldn't have the electric light, certainly as we see it today. So failure is a good thing. The only thing is, if you're going to fail, at least fall in a forward direction and learn from the experience. Once you understand where you want to get to and you understand the barriers, you can then start to focus on key areas of strategy and planning. So what is it I need to do that will help me to overcome these barriers and move forward in the direction that I want to? Having that strategy and that plan right means that each morning you wake up, you have focus in your life to move your business forward in little steps. Everything you do is focused on that plan. So everything you do moves you forward in little steps towards achieving your end goal. A lot of people don't write down their goals, their plans for the future. We should, because we have to cement them. Something we can refer to make us understand why we're doing something maybe in the way that we are. Because it's very easy in the hustle and bustle of daily business life to lose sight of why we're actually doing this, particularly when you're having a bad day. Without a goal, it's just a wish. So we have to have clear and concise goals. Great study done in the States of graduates. Only 3%, less than 3%, actually had written goals. "20 years later, they were worth 97% more than the rest of their classmates. They were also healthier and they enjoyed much better relationships." So again, having goals is very, very important. And the final thing is the thing that so often we fail to do, which is then stick with the plan, because things will go wrong. And when things go wrong, it's very easy to stop what you're doing, to change direction, to say, oh, that's not going to work, I'll now do something else. And all we do is jump from one idea to the next, and we deliver on none of them. So having that commitment to keep that focus is key. Why? Through this presentation, I'm going to cover a number of whys. We've had great speakers talking about innovation. We've had great speakers talking about how you finance a business. In a lot of cases, we've not gone to understand the why, because until we truly understand why we do something and the bigger benefit we derive from it, we can't really get behind it. So the first thing is really, why are we in business? It might sound so simple. Why are we in business? A lot of people will say, well, I'm in business to make money. That's a simple one. I'm in business to make money. And money is important to a business. Without it, a business can't prosper, it can't flourish, you can't employ people, you can't grow, you can't promote and market your products and services. But it's not all about money. Money is not the key reason why any of us are genuinely in business. We're in business to provide a service. The result is to make money. If you provide a service of sufficient quality and sufficient standard, you will make money. For the clients I work with, my fees are irrelevant to them. In a lot of cases, they don't even ask what my fees are. And that's because my value to their organizations is in big multiples of whatever their investment may be. One client that I work with, when I asked the question, what's your exit strategy? They said, I just want to build up some value in the business, and in about 3 years' time, we want to sell it for as much as we can. So that was fine. I clearly understood where they wanted to get to. So the whole strategy we embarked on was very different than we may have done otherwise. So 3 years later, that business turned over £600,000. That's not a fortune. It only had 12 customers. That's not a large number. But that business sold for £6 million, 10 times its turnover within 3 years. Within 3 years, it went from a business that barely made a living to selling for £6 million. And the reason it did that was down to which 12 clients we focused on. Because what they bought it for was the potential for that business, not the reality of where it was that day. So on that day, it was only turning over £600,000 and making about £100,000 profit. But nevertheless, they were more than prepared to spend £6 million acquiring that business. Profit is just the result of it. The purpose of a business is to acquire and then retain customers. It's where the value is. In their case, it was the value of the 12 customers that they had. In your cases, particularly where you move online, the volumes will be much higher. But if you talk to anyone running a successful business, and again, Drayton touched on it yesterday, it's all about the data. It's all about who we have on our base. So capturing that information is absolutely key. It's all about the customer, it's all about understanding their needs, it's all about meeting their needs, and it's all about communicating with them to show that you meet those needs. So it's not about making money, it's about providing a service. If you provide a service of sufficient standard and quality, people will buy from you. And the money bit just becomes secondary. It's no longer the important thing that you often think it is. Why? Why do we lose customers? There's some simple explanations. Some will die. We all die. Not too many people profit from you dying. Have we got any funeral directors here? People that arrange funerals? People that arrange events for funerals and wakes? No. So most of us don't profit from our customers dying. Some of our customers will move away. They'll move out of country where maybe we can't get to them as easily, although the internet opens that opportunity up. Some will move away from our products and services. Maybe we've satisfied the need and it's no longer there. Some will actively go out to competitors, but it's not a large number. If you provide a good service, people will stay with you. They won't just go out and look for others. Lower prices. It's the thing that so many people hold up as being key. If we were only a bit cheaper. Price is not the issue. It genuinely is not the issue. If someone says to you, you are too expensive, they are not saying they can't afford it. What they're saying is, you've not given me sufficient justification for the price that you're asking. If the benefit is real and the benefit has value, people will pay whatever the price is. I do a lot of these conferences, and I was talking about an example I give, which is Rolex. I mean, you're a very affluent audience. I'm sure most of you are wearing your Rolexes today. I'm not, but I'm sure you are. But why do people buy Rolex? They don't buy a Rolex to keep the time. If you wanted to keep the time, there's lots of other watches you can buy that will do it better, less expensively, more reliably, cost less to maintain. But the fact is, you buy a Rolex because of the statement it makes about you. It's part of reflecting your success, that you are an achiever and you are being successful in life. And I told that story at a conference, and then afterwards someone came up to me and said, I've got a great story about Rolex. He said, I was at a conference and I was in the bar of the hotel having a drink, and I got talking to the guy that was next to me. And I said, oh, what do you do? And he said, oh, I'm the chairman of Rolex UK. And he said to him, oh, you make watches? And he just looked back and said, oh, I thought we made luxury items. Rolex don't see it that their business is about watches. Their business is about luxury. And that's what people buy. And it's nothing to do with the price, because if it was about the price, you wouldn't buy Rolexes. And even Rolex would agree with that. Disputes. Disputes are 14% of the reason why you don't get business. And some of that is because we don't contact our customers enough, we don't engage with them enough, we're not open and transparent enough so they feel they can tell us when we get it wrong. But also disputes can be small things. People often have a short fuse. So disputes don't have to be someone sending you an angry email, someone phoning you and shouting down the phone. A dispute can just be poor service, something arriving late because you set an expectation and you didn't meet it. But if we don't follow up on that, it creates an issue for us. And as we all know, people are very happy to tell everyone else about the negative. They're not always good about stating the positive. So there can often be disputes for our business that we're unaware of, and because we're unaware of them, we can't do a lot about it. But it's about communication. But disputes are only 14% of the reason why we lose business. The biggest factor of why we lose business is indifference and lack of contact. We don't differentiate our business sufficiently from those that we compete with, and we only ever contact our customers when we want to sell them something. And so they go somewhere else. So whilst all those other things are important, people moving away, yes, we've got to be aware of competition, yes, we've got to handle dispute resolution well, and no, it's not all about price, the key thing we need to do is ensure that we differentiate our products and our services sufficiently, and within that we communicate with some regularity to our base, and not all sales communication. Starting to build the passion for your brand, for your business, starting to build advocates, people that see it almost as their role and their duty in life to go around telling people how good you are. That's what we need to do through good communication and good differentiation. Because without it, we're just another provider. And if we're just another provider, we become a commodity. And if we're a commodity, then the only thing we're giving the customer is price. And that's why for a lot of people, price features so heavily in terms of how people do business with us. Innovation. We've had some great speakers here talking about innovation, but none of them have really talked about why innovation is good for business. We all believe it to be good, and we kind of get it, but actually what is innovation and what does it really, really mean in terms of our business? It's about developing value. It's about creating differentiation. And innovation isn't always about doing the latest thing. You know, there's different types of innovation. You have incremental innovation, and that's where products are just continually enhanced. My favorite example is the razor blade, for those of you that wet shave. If you go back to Gillette, back in the 19th century, he came out with the first safety razor. It was a step up from the cutthroat razor that was used before then. And since that time, it's been developed. So it went from a single blade to 2 blades. Then we've seen the number of blades increase. If any of you use Dorco have an 8-bladed razor at the moment. I do wonder where that will end, because at some point you physically won't be able to use it. We've added lubricating strips. We've added trimmer blades for beards and sideburns and so on. But that's incremental innovation. Then you get the groundbreaking innovation. Completely new technologies, completely new products. Electricity, flight, the internet are all groundbreaking. They did not exist before, and then suddenly they came out and took over the world. And then you get that real show-stopping innovation that people do. Apple, great innovator. If you go back into the 80s, you had the Walkman. Most of you are far too young to remember the Walkman. But it took an audio cassette, and it was the first time your music was truly mobile. And there were ads of people out jogging with their headphones on and their Sony Walkman. And Sony sold 30,000 units within the first week, completely transformed the market, where suddenly music was mobile. And what happened was lots of other people got on the bandwagon, and they all started to produce their own versions of the portable cassette player. And then it got into mini discs. But while all this was happening, Apple sat in the background. They didn't try to compete with the Walkman. They didn't try to compete with the mini disc, because what they did is they looked at what was going to come next in the evolution of mobile music. And while everyone else was focusing on the Walkman, and when everyone else was then focusing on the mini disc, Apple brought out the first iPod and completely turned the market on its head again. So innovation is different things to different people. In some cases, it's the next groundbreaking product, as we saw with Apple and the iPod. We've seen it with e-readers. In other cases, it's completely revolutionary, like the internet or the light bulb, flight. But in some cases, it's incremental. It's continually doing what you do better so that you constantly stay ahead of the rest. And we see that the most in mobile phone technology. Every few months there's a new release from Samsung or from Apple, bringing out new features, better phones, better definition screens, better audio. So that's incremental innovation, just continually making things better. So the first thing is understanding actually what innovation is. And the next thing is really seeing all the benefits that that gives us. Because innovation is more than, hey, we can just sell more products. If that's all you think that innovation is, then you shouldn't be innovating. Innovation is key to any business. As soon as you stop innovating, you die. Your business dies the moment you stop innovating. The moment you stop thinking, how can I do this better? How can I meet the needs of my clients better than I do today? You start to die. You just become an also-ran, you just become a commodity provider, and ultimately price will be the only differentiator you give people, and you will go out of business. Companies have to innovate to survive. But the benefits are vast. Yes, it differentiates you from others. People buy Apple product because they know they're innovators, they're getting the latest technology, and more will always follow. And that's why people like Apple so much as a product. But it gives us a lot more than that. It makes us more attractive to the customers we have, but also helps us to draw in new ones because they're drawn in by innovation. You retain the customers you have because they're always looking forward to what you've got next, because that helps them to improve their products, their services. It helps them to sell more to their customers. It gives us a real advantage over competitors. It undermines competitors. I went through business school with IBM back in the 80s, and IBM were renowned for launching products a long time before they were even available. I went to the product launch of a product called the RS6000, which was a mid-range platform, and they did an amazing presentation in a theatre to lots of buyers from big corporate companies. And the curtains opened and all the RS6000s came out and there was dry ice everywhere and all flashing LEDs. It looked absolutely amazing. The product wasn't available for another 18 months. And I spoke afterwards to one of the guys at IBM that had organised the launch, and he said, let me show you something. And we went backstage and we opened up these RS6000s. They were empty cabinets with LEDs in and batteries. That's what all the flashing lights were. There was no product available. But what it did was prevent buyers from buying Hewlett-Packard or someone else's kit. They would say, oh, IBM have got a new product coming out, we'd better wait. And IBM used to play on that. They used to say that no one's ever been sacked for buying IBM. It was always seen as a safe bet. And so IBM would launch products very early just to disrupt the competition. The other thing it gives us is attacker's advantage. When you come up with new innovation, you gain an advantage and you can attack your competitors, you can attack the market. The other thing it does, of course, is disrupt the status quo. What that means is if you're in a market that's of a given size, a bit like a cake, and you've got your slice and someone else has got their slice, if you're going to grow, there's only two ways you can do it. If the market's growing, then you can grow with the market. So if the market's growing at 10% every year, you can grow at 10% by not doing an awful lot. But if you're going to grow more than that, or if the market's not growing, you have to take it from somebody else. Because the cake is only so big. And if you're going to take it from someone else, firstly you need to do your homework to establish who the best victim is. But the second thing is you need to disrupt the status quo because there is a natural balance in the market and you have to disrupt it. And innovation is very, very good at disrupting markets. So the reason why we innovate is not simply because we want to be seen as innovators and, hey, look how great we are. We need to innovate because without it, our businesses will die. And we need to innovate to remain competitive and to give ourselves significant advantage over our competitors. Jack Welch, absolutely brilliant CEO, said, if you don't have a competitive advantage, then don't compete. Understanding your competitive advantage is key. If from this presentation there is only one thing you take away, it's this. This next lesson is the thing you really, really need to take away and do. Most businesses do it really badly. It is very, very rare that I go into a business and find that they're doing this stuff well. They think they're doing it well, they believe they're doing it well, but they're not doing it well. And again, it was one of the things that Drayton touched on quite extensively yesterday. You know, it's about getting that message right. And he looked at some great examples from ads that put across the passion, the personality of a product, how that's put across in different mediums. But getting this aspect right is key. And there's a very, very simple way of doing this. And as I say, it's the one thing, if you take it away from this presentation, please do it. It will make the biggest difference to your business. Just before we jump into this, who knows what USP stands for? Oh, that lady at the front there. No? You know what does USP stand for? Oh, anyone know what USP stands for? Gentleman there. Very good. I'm going to jump down from the stage, which is highly irregular. I'm going to give you a copy of that there, so thank you very much indeed. That's excellent. Well done, that man. I will go back up the stairs. Oh, the lady's waving at the back. That means I've got 15 minutes, so. Yeah, USP. There's two types or two elements to USP. You have unique selling points, and when you put them all together, you have a unique selling proposition. And it was first coined by Rosser Reeves back in the late 50s, early 60s. It was in his book Reality in Advertising, which came out in 1961, which really looked at this whole subject, one of the early books that really had some focus on it, followed by people like Ogilvy and others. But USP is important. It's another way of putting across this whole thing about differentiation and advantage. It's not social media, websites, advertising, PR, all those lovely marketing things that will make you rich. And I apologize if that shatters some illusions, but just having a website, just doing lots of social media will not make you rich. It's their message. It's all about the message. With a bad message, whatever you do just makes the bad message louder. So getting the message right is key, and that's why I say it's the one thing that you need to take away from this conference and look at in your business. No matter how good you think you are, please do this exercise. All we're trying to do as marketeers, as business owners, as entrepreneurs is very simple. We're trying to get the right message through to the right people, through the right channels, and at the right time. And it sounds really simple, doesn't it? But at the end of the day, it has to start with the right message. Because otherwise, just sending it out to the right people, yes, again, as Drayton touched on yesterday, if you send a poor message to the right people, you stand a chance of getting something. But how much better is it if we send the right message to the right people? And in terms of channels, that's just your marketing. That's whether you're using point of sale, whether you've got a website, social media, other online, paid for advertising, PPC on the likes of Google and Facebook and increasingly the likes of Twitter, events, whatever it is, whatever particular flavor or whatever mix goes into your marketing, we have to start off with the right message and deliver that well. People look for differences, not similarities. So we have to highlight what makes us different. And at the bottom is my leap into advanced mathematics, which basically says that the chances of hooking are directly proportional to the number of hooks. The more reasons why we give people to buy from us, the better our proposition will be. People buy things for lots of different reasons. So every time we identify one of those, it's a hook. And we're acting like fishermen. We're throwing our lines out into the market to reel people in, and people will buy for lots and lots of different reasons. So we have to take time to understand that. And there's a simple process that we can go through. The first thing I would ask you to do is to go away from here and write down why you think people do business with you. What is it they like about you, your products, your service? And I'd say revisit it a couple of times. So write it down, then go away, and then maybe come back a few hours later or a day later and have a look at it again. And what you'll then have is a list of why you think people do business with you. The next thing to then do is to go and speak to someone that you're close to in the business, maybe your partner in the business, maybe a colleague in the business, and ask them to do the same exercise. Maybe you'll do it in parallel. Don't show them what you've done. Just ask them to conduct the same exercise, to go away and to write down why they think people do business with you. And when you sit down after that, what you'll then do is identify that there's a lot of commonality. You think in much the same ways. I'd expect that. But each of you maybe have slightly different things on that list. So already we're starting to develop a few new ideas, identifying a few new ways. The next thing to do is analyze your competitors. How good we need to be is only relevant in the context of the competition. If the competition is awful, we can be really average and still do very, very well. If the competition is good, then we've got to be at the top of our game if we're going to succeed. And this bit's easy now because of the internet. Years ago, this was slightly difficult. You would have to go to exhibitions and events. You would have to gather the literature from your competitors. You'd have to conduct interviews with maybe clients they'd lost to find out more about them. You'd have to get copies of their proposals, maybe from a trusted source. But now on the internet, it's all laid open. You can go to their websites and see what they say about themselves, to see what message they're conveying to the market, and then you can start to compare that with yours. You can see, okay, they're saying a lot of the same things that we are, that's good, but there's a few new things, and you can look at the value of those and whether that's actually relevant to your business or not. And once you've done that, you'll have a good but insular understanding of what makes you different. The next thing you need to do is the really important ones. Go and ask your clients and your prospects. It's all about testing. It's all about going out to the markets. What we think is irrelevant unless our customers and our prospects think the same. And I've done this with companies who've had really, really good reasons why people do business with them, and then we've gone out to the customers to find out it's completely different. It's not that they were just wrong, it's just that they were stuck in the past. The reasons they have for doing business were from 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and they were perfectly valid then, but they've not moved ahead with the times. So going out and talking to your customers, talking to your prospects, say, hey, why do you do business with me? What is it you like about me? What is it you like about my company? What is it you like about my product? And what they'll start to do is reinforce the things that you already believe. They'll start to highlight things that you maybe haven't considered. And they'll start to highlight the things that separate you from others because they came to you for a reason. Every business has some differentiator. My business is unique, and I can say that without any thought or equivocation. My business is completely unique. I can also say that every single one of your businesses is also unique. I don't have competitors. I have no competitors at all. I just have people who choose to compete with me because I don't have competitors. And you should all be the same if you get this right. And the final point you need to do, once you've been out to your clients and prospects, is speak to lost clients, people you didn't get business from, because you lost the business for a reason. And there's two things you can achieve there. One is you can achieve a much better understanding of why people would like to be doing business with you and why you lost business, and therefore you could do something about it. And there's also in marketing a thing called the fainted close, which is when you think you've lost business, you haven't always lost it. And if you go back and talk to people, you can sometimes find that if you did things differently, you can still get the business. But we need to talk to the people that we didn't get business from because they went somewhere else for a reason. And therefore, we need to understand what that reason was. And once we've done that, we'll have lots of what I call features. We'll have a long list of why we think people do business with us. And what we need to do at that point is turn those features into benefits and results. Because I might say, my business has been established for 30 years. And you might say, so what? Because what's in it for you? Well, actually, because I've been established for 30 years means that I've got a lot of experience, I've got a lot of knowledge, I've got a lot of understanding, I've got a lot of proven results, I'm a safe pair of hands. I've been around for 30 years, the chances are I'll be around for another 30 years. Suddenly, I'm seeing the benefit of that. So once you have your features, you need to look at what is the benefit or what is the result that the customer will see from what you do. Because I can only be interested in you if what you do is of interest and benefit to me. And in some cases, we have to qualify that. And what I mean by qualify is, I'm sure you'd all say that you give great customer service. But everybody says they give great customer service. I have never gone onto the internet, I have never seen a TV ad, I've never seen an ad in print where a company says, actually, our service is really poor. Everybody says they give good service. So you have to qualify it. Do research so that you can say independently 98.2% of our customers rate our service as excellent. You've got to qualify the statement. Look at awards. Go and enter awards for customer service. If you win those awards, you can say, our customer service is award-winning. So you have to qualify. It's a differentiator that sets you aside from the others. I touched on in there, and it's a really key statement and something for you to keep in your minds. I can only be interested in you if what you do is of interest and benefit to me. Everything you do, you have to look at from the customer's perspective, not yours. David Ogilvy came up with a really good quote. What you say in advertising is more important than how you say it. When you look back, all we're trying to do as marketeers is to get the right message to the right people, through the right channels, at the right time. It has to start with that message. So what you say is far more important than how you say it. Unfortunately, this isn't the sexy stuff. The sexy stuff is doing social media campaigns, it's doing websites, it's doing print advertising, it's doing events and promotions. But if we don't get the message right at the start, we waste money, we waste time, we waste resources. And none of us in business can afford to do that. Businesses that are successful get it right. And as I say, the businesses I work with are new start businesses and entrepreneurs that want to get it right at the start, because if you do this stuff at the start, it becomes habit forming and you continue to do it. If you don't, you end up like the big businesses that I work with, like American Express and Alfa Romeo and Fiat Group, who've got it wrong for too many years, and now they understand they have to start going back and putting these foundations in place. So the question to ask yourself is, do you use words that suit you or words that suit your customers? Final slide, and then a quick sort of close down on a couple of bits. We see lots in business about getting one over on someone, taking advantage. Successful businesses and business people aren't like that. You have to keep faithful to your ethics. Walter Cronkite came up with a brilliant quote, as did the great author and consultant Peter Drucker. You know, there's no such thing as business ethics, it's just ethics. So whatever you do, remain faithful. So in terms of this presentation, as we close, I've spent 45 minutes with you. I would have happily carried on for longer. There are so many lessons I would love to share. We've covered just five of the really key ones. It may sound simple, but it's not simplistic. And this is the stuff that great businesses are made of. The clients I work with see massive returns on their investment. They see substantial growth because they get the foundations right. And some of these lessons, and quite a few more, are covered in this. As I say, there's 100 copies of this available. There's no cost. You don't have to even leave your business card. It's not a promotional thing. It's just something I would love to do. I've come to Varna. I've loved it. It's a great, great city and a brilliant country. So it's just my way of trying to give a little bit of something back. All you need to do is go to the organiser's stand, and they've got copies of those that I would ask you to pick up, take away and digest. Give me some feedback. You know, join me on Twitter, join me on LinkedIn. Send any comments through. I'm very easy to find. If you go onto Google and type in Dale Howarth, I am all of the first page, I am most of the second page. So I am very, very easy to find. So you can email me, you can join me on LinkedIn, you can connect up on Twitter. So at that point, I will thank you so much for your time. You've been absolutely brilliant. There's still great presentations for the rest of today, and thank you.